Hi there. Chess. It's a surprisingly deep game. It's not just a matter of knowing how the pieces move, but being able to plan ahead as far as possible in multiple combinations to try and achieve ultimate victory. I'll admit, I'm not much good at the game. I know how the pieces move and have a little bit of strategy, but if I get to check, I then find myself chasing the remaining pieces around the board, galloping towards stalemate country. It's just not my game of choice. Many groups and societies think it's theirs, however, and it doesn't take much investigation to find a church, Freemasonic lodge or stately home that has a checkered black and white floor that you're made to walk across if you decide to visit. Not to mention the many music videos of so-called pop stars dancing on the visual prompt to remind us that we're all just pieces on a board. Chess may not be your game either, but it could be argued we all play the game every day on a grand scale, whether we're good at it or not. It obviously doesn't matter if you're black or white, to quote from Michael They Don't Care About Us Jackson. Both sides have many pieces that are pitted against one another, and you could substitute the obvious colour difference for variations on a theme. Male versus female, gay versus straight, or even country versus country. It's always one faction set against another. Imagine a set of Russian nesting dolls, and inside each one is a chessboard. Open the smallest one, you are the king or queen, congratulations. And if you have children, you learn to guide them around the board to enable them to know the rules and be armed to play their forthcoming games as best they can. A step up and you might have the work chessboard in the doll. The CEO and the board might be the king and queen, HR the bishop, the rooks are the accountants and contract writers in their ivory towers, etc., etc. You can go right up to an almost literal board, although this may still not be the grand chessboard, and there may be a king or queen with their family as the board equivalents. Bishops are religious factions, rooks are the government and law creators in their offices, and who does the knight symbolise? You may have noticed the symbolism of the checkerboard hats and vehicles of the emergency services. Police are made to keep pieces on the board following the rules. Fire services are there to help protect the pieces and their property from being destroyed, and the ambulance vehicles and workers are there to keep us playing as long as possible. They want us to believe there's only one way off the board, retirement in the form of death. One thing is for sure, the cannon fodder are the pawns like you and I out in front. The rest hide behind us and only move for strategic advantage or to protect themselves. You may suspect, but not necessarily register, that there are two common factions not seen. There are always the hidden hands who force the play, and there are the spectators. Both of these groups, you may have noticed, are not on the board at all. The funny thing is, the hidden hands seem to be playing several boards at once. They don't care about most outcomes because they have learnt they can both win by playing both sides to their mutual advantage, or to make us believe this is the true game when all the while there's another board with a real agenda playing out. The spectators are those not subject to the rules of the game. They are off the board because they're rich enough, influential enough, or perhaps have false identities. Maybe it's a group who none dare speak its name. These spectators get the jollies watching and shouting out suggested moves, and it's you and I, looked down upon in disdain, that get forced to think a certain way, believe we have to work a certain way, or kill our fellow souls because someone higher ranked on the chessboard deemed we should. As you get older and see the world is not a fizzy drink commercial, it gets harder to believe how one person can claim to have rule over another. How can one, made of flesh and blood, order another of flesh and blood to go and kill yet another for the sake of a disagreement of ideology, a construct indoctrinated and fostered since birth? How is it we are manipulated into believing the king is in fact the king, or the queen the queen? Power invested by God and a shiny tiara placed on your head, you say? I wasn't there to witness either of these miracles, so while we wait for the men with the special jacket to arrive, please excuse me if I don't doff my cap to ye. In the distant past, before the padded jackets though, I guess at some point a person decided God had chosen them to be king. Someone decided to follow this king and hire his friends as a force to convince others, probably the lords, Then peaceful farmers or hunter-gatherers were convinced that they were protected by these pitifully few enforcers until such time as the king was challenged about his rule, or what were now his lands, and in that case you had to protect him and his men at all costs, including your life, to maintain this marvellous kingdom. Oh, and you have to pay to finance it too. Those diamond tiaras don't make themselves, you know. Somehow it escaped these gentlefolk, or perhaps it was beaten out of them, that you only have one life to live, just like the rulers. Let them squander their lives out on a battlefield if they wish. I'm a great believer in leading by example. If you claim to be chosen by God and you believe fighting is the best action, get out in front with your family and ministers, and I just may be convinced. So how do we know those hiding behind us on the chessboard, claiming a portion of our lives in the form of taxes and obedience, are in fact people who are fit to lead? As the generations go on, it gets harder and harder for those born into this trap to discern true leaders from those that would order a boot on your face for raising a question about their leadership skills. The more time that passes, unfortunately, the more money is acquired by them for force, enslavement, spying, and building enough underground tunnels for them to hide in when we really do snap out of this belief handed down through the generations. Our eyes have been blinded to the long game. We are so busy trying to navigate the laws, trying to get just one positive thing done, fighting the inequities at work or in the system, or wrestling with the automated phone menus that keep us tied up for hours waiting to speak to a person in another country, that we don't see more cameras going up, yet more surveillance laws being passed. The push for the cashless society, and the hinting now that, hey, wouldn't it be a great idea to get rid of a standard fee on a car every year and just pay by the kilometre? And no, it wouldn't. Before you know it, splish, splash, splosh, we're all using our hands to scoop against the flow in a leaky boat up a brown and very smelly creek because the paddle just floated away. I have to say, I've met people from all three social groups in this world, those termed rich, middle class and poor, and I have to say, you can learn a great deal from two of the three. I seldom have learnt anything at all on the very few occasions I met someone from old money rich who believed they were superior to everyone else. Their minds are closed to the merest possibility of learning from what they deem beneath them. It's just a mindset drilled into them. I don't doubt that in their souls they see us as not having the inside information they have, and so we're just a worker bee made to bring into creation what they want for their pleasure. I see no creators from this group. No singers, no scientists, no great thinkers. They're leeches. How about sharing the hidden information with everyone else and seeing how superior you really are? The thing though is, the only real difference between us is whose sperm fertilized whose egg. If both of yours were from rich families, congratulations. But if you were not born into a highly wealthy family, I'm pleased to meet you. Welcome to the game. You may have noticed, though, that old money almost always marries old money. That's the long game again, and it ensures a lineage that keeps its money and assets in-house. I don't like to dwell on the fact I'm forced to play someone else's game most of my short life for someone else's benefit, which could just end up in a pointless stalemate. Maybe it's time we bartered with like-minded people, but I find it laughable that a lot of countries have a tax page devoted to extracting money for bartering. Go ahead, look it up. What a joke. Maybe we'll say that we're all doing each other favours instead, but this isn't a new idea, of course. I'm sure the player on the other side of the board from government on that one is called the Mafia or the Freemasons. At the end of the day, I can't point to any solutions. It's taken generations to get to this stage, and over that time many loopholes have been closed that might have allowed us to try and extract ourselves from it all. I watch the news and see fellows needlessly slaughtered. I see the corporations poisoning food just to make it look nice on the shelf. I see laws enacted to prevent people with empathy from helping and feeding those in need. And what do we see from the back row? Companies dicking everyday people with a tick of approval from the government. Police dicking with ordinary people's lives. The clergy dicking any young boy under puberty age. And another congratulations for the Queen because a royal descendant dicked someone in a related family. So join me, won't you, in a hip hip hooray for the newest inbred member of the elite to grace every news station and woman's magazine cover for the next month. Hip hip.